Welcome to another episode of Oppidan's Heads and Tails. On this episode, we are delighted to welcome Colin Bell. Colin is the CEO of COBIS, of course, the Council of British International Schools. Now, this is a meaty subject for anyone interested in international schools, the allure of British education, and the growing interest of UK schools internationally. Colin joined COBIS in 2010, supporting students, staff, teachers, leaders, and governors from around the world. That work features in more than 80 countries, I believe. And prior to COBIS, Colin worked for the DfE. He worked for the London Borough of Richmond, where for 6 years he was a member of the School Improvement Inspectorate. So we're going to touch on some regulatory issues also. So Colin, thank you for joining us on the episode.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Walter. Delighted to be invited and to contribute. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, you are a big hitter in education, there is no doubt. So this will last about 20 minutes and I'm keen to go for the jugular. So British education, it's got an allure that spans lots and lots of countries. What is it about UK schools and British education that is so attractive to an international market, do you think?
Great question to kick us off with. And the answer is pretty straightforward in terms of its quality. So, that's in terms of quality of teaching, of teachers, of leadership, governance, basically the overall offer, which is out there for fee-paying parents to make that investment into high quality education for their children. So you'd also be looking at the quality of obviously the curriculum, which is on offer, the extracurricular activities, the level of safeguarding and child protection is paramount as well. And ultimately, if parents are investing in anything, whether it's education or other items, it's about the outcome. What's the impact? So you look at the start of a children's education and where it might lead to, whether that is destination for higher education, or more importantly, its destination is you're going to be a contributing citizen of the world. That's kind of like where the end point is for high quality British international schools, which, for example, COBIS has within its membership.
What is the broader mission of COBIS for those who don't follow it like we do?
Yeah, sure. Broader mission is pretty simple. It's to help schools and students thrive. That's it. It couldn't be simpler. So that's support for schools, whether it's professional development, external quality assurance, accreditation. So our mission is very straightforward. And also in terms of offering opportunities for students, whether it's competitions, events. Goodness me, last year we had probably about 45,000 students compete in whether it's sporting events, art, music, performing arts, poetry, maths, you name it, coding, we do it. And actually we're really excited because next academic year, we're planning esports as well. So for all you Minecraft enthusiasts out there, there'll be opportunities for youngsters to get stuck into capture the flag and all sorts of other, more harnessing best of technology opportunities for children.
Wonderful. I mean, people say that British education is the envy of the world. It's a great export, particularly post Brexit. Is that actually true? Is it an enviable product, do you think?
Well, I guess I'd take a step back and envy. I don't see envy as a positive sort of attribute, or so I would always look at other education systems or offers as worthy rivals. In life, we've always got to remain competitive. We've always got to remain non-complacent, and British education does have the edge over the volume of. If you look at volume of international schools, there are probably about 13,000 that are classed as international schools globally, and UK orientated curriculum is around about 42%. So it's clearly got got a large footprint. But yeah, I'll be totally honest with you. We may well have British schools in 80 odd countries, but our schools are very good at learning from the culture within where they're based as well. So they'll always look to education systems, not just based on British offer, but in country, and draw from the best really, and draw from the best around the world as well. I think that when if people are saying that the British education system is the best in the world, it's not necessarily the most positive message in terms of respect for other systems as well. But clearly, what the UK education system has to offer, whether it's early years, schools, higher education, it's a quality offer. That's undoubted.
Much of your career has been spent, obviously, leading change in the UK before you joined COBIS in 2010. And I know that much of your work was around inspection. At Oppidum, much of the work we're doing is around developing character skills that don't necessarily feature high on the list of let's say, an Ofsted or an ISI inspectorate. Can you touch perhaps on the future of inspections and how you see that developing?
Yeah, certainly. So you're right. I've been involved in school improvement whilst teaching in Japan, Czech Republic, UK, and inspection has a very different philosophy to what COBIS offers in terms of our accreditation. So we offer something called the Patrons Accreditation and Compliance Scheme, which is based around done with and not done to for schools. It's external validation of evidence which schools collate, and it's set against a very rigorous set of standards which are based upon the United Nations Rights of the Child. And that's the platform with which we build our long-term school improvement, as I say, done with and not done to. Inspection, we view as a very short-termist helicopter view of a school. In fact, we were talking at the COBIS annual conference last week with a group of students about what their view of their education experiences to date. And one of them came up with a wonderful phrase whereby, for example, examinations they view as a screenshot of their performance on the day. And so I guess when we view inspections as a helicopter view, I could change that really to mirror what this fantastic student said and just say it's more of a screenshot of what's happening there and then really. So yeah, we see great merit in aspects of inspection schemes which are out there. For example, the British Schools Overseas Inspection System, which is voluntary and which is from the Department of Education, from the DfE. It was COBIS that actually lobbied for that to be introduced back in 2011, 2012. And a lot of schools, great schools, follow that route. So we recognise that and we see merit in it, but our own accreditation scheme is certainly gathering pace now. And probably about 240 schools have completed it or booked it in its 6 years of operation. So it's definitely going places.
Done with. It's about taking people on the journey. I adhere to that massively. Let's stay within this sort of relevant assessment, perhaps, criteria. Then I know you've recently been appointed to the UCAS International Advisory Group, which represents the views of the UK international education sector. I know you're supporting the IAG to advise on UCAS's strategic development. Can you give listeners a kind of perhaps the insider track on UCAS development and your views on how entry to tertiary education might develop?
Yeah, again, great question. It's a real privilege to be invited to join the International Advisory Group with UCAS. And I do that with the responsibility, not just for our COBIS member schools, but, I'm here to represent the best of British international schools globally as well. So across the different sectors. And UCAS are looking to redevelop and the application process, which makes sense. For example, looking at ways in terms of, for example, personal statements are to be revised. The overall way that universities and students are best matched for the best fit. And with for example, the international school sector and COBIS, UCAS are also looking at ways in which they can diversify the students which are applying to UK universities, and that's got to be welcomed. You know, that's excellent. So the diversity of students and also the diversity of courses for which different groups of students apply for. COBIS does annual research every year, and back in 2019, 53% of our students would choose the UK or did choose the UK as destination of choice. Now, interestingly, that's dropped, and that's dropped to 44% was our last annual research from 2022. And this type of information is really important that we share with the DFE, the Department of Business and Trade, UCAS, university sector. You know, we've got a lot of friends and colleagues within that sector. So we do actually look at the reasons why that popularity has dropped so that they can be addressed.
Perhaps well, I mean, what UCAS was doing far preceded any recent AI developments, particularly around ChatGPT. So I sort of, perhaps direct question, will the personal statement exist in 2 years, do you think?
My personal opinion is, I think that it will definitely have to change. Whether it's face-to-face interviews, online interviews, yeah, you know, like everything in life, things change for good reason, and the overhaul and the revision to that personal statement is now at the right opportunity to do so.
I could talk for hours about this. I'm going to, in a sort of odd way, come back to the start to finish this podcast. So, Colin, you have the breadth of experience and the rigor in which you have taken on so much of the nitty-gritty in education must have a genesis in something. Now, I know you were a teacher beforehand, and much of your work stemmed from the UK, but for anyone interested in child psychology, I'd be interested to know a bit about your background and what led you, looking back, to have the success that you have had.
Yeah, that's a good question. I was very fortunate to go to 2 excellent schools in Liverpool, northwest England. And, you know, I was always shown great kindness from my teachers. I was always shown kind of like the mantra of, look, you know, you get out of life what you put into it. And I've always been a very curious soul, and my teachers always harnessed that, really. And they were they just gave you the encouragement to just get on with things, try different things out. So it's funny, actually, you mentioned psychology of you know, children's education, because at university I studied horticulture and plant sciences because I was always fascinated with basically just how things grow. And so I worked for landscapers since the age of 13, you know, school holidays, all of that. Worked out in California at the Botanic Gardens where they filmed Dynasty. I don't know if you remember Dynasty. You're far too young for Dynasty, Walter. But yeah, the point is, at university, it was brilliant because I selected university where you could do a sandwich year and also electives. So you could pick other elements of education across the different faculties at the university to supplement your course. And I studied electives in child psychology and education psychology, basically. And that really sparked my interest for this. So much so that I did too many electives, and lo and behold, on graduation day, I was awarded 2 different degrees, which was a complete surprise to me and my friends and my family. So, you know, maybe attention to more detail would have been better for me in terms of how many exams I actually went to. But yeah, so I've always loved the idea of nurturing plants. I grow all my own veggies, but also nurturing young minds and creative minds. And there's no better opportunity to do that and help shape that than within the amazing network of COBIS. The schools, the teaching assistants, the librarians. We've got a phenomenal set of professionals who we work really hard to try and harness their skill, their energy, and the power of the network, really. So yeah, it's a great organization and sector to be involved in.
My mother, of all people, will appreciate the analogy between growing plants and watching businesses and children grow. But I think perhaps two things I've just taken out from listening to you. One is the shared need for patience, whether it's plant studies and horticulture, or watching empires and networks grow and schools develop. And lastly, for any children out there listening, the importance of curiosity from a young age has led demonstrably to an interesting and varied career. So, Colin, thank you for joining us on the podcast, and look forward to watching COBIS grow, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Excellent. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.